Dennis Ward, do you back the walkway extension? I back everything to a degree if it's done sensibly and within a reasonable budget. We can't stop growing as a city. The walkway extension, it's going to happen eventually. I don't think it's going to happen in the time that everybody thinks it is, because there's some issues with the landowners, and council have been fairly rigid in their approach to the landowners, and the landowners are basically, from what I understand it, saying, hey, that's not how we want it. We don't want a walkway through the middle of our working properties, and you're being unreasonable. So there's quite a bit of stuff to go through with that, and that may just stop the walkway in its tracks, simply, which would be detrimental for the city, but it also will help keep the costs under control. Mike Johns, Max, I hope you're not aligned with the views of current councillor Brian Vickery. His comments, if the walkway from New Plymouth to Waitara doesn't happen, it's an absolute tragedy. Yeah, no, I wouldn't agree with that. What's an absolute tragedy is all the things that you summarised there further down your question. I can't read all that out today. Tragedy, no, I don't. That's not an absolute tragedy. It's a set of circumstance that has got us to a place that is not a very good place with that, but I wouldn't say it's an absolute tragedy. Is 43 million too much? Well, this must be a follow-on question to the walkway extension. I think 43 million is totally ridiculous for a vanity project. There is an element of vanity in it. That's from Howard Reid. There's definitely an element of vanity in it. There's an element of overspend, a huge element of overspend that can be peeled back. Again, the land that we have to purchase for it. The property owners disagree with the amount of land and the value, so that's going to be a problem. All things that need to be done, they need to be done in a manner that gives a good outcome that people can afford to pay for. Blair Stadden, can we afford this? Personally, I don't think it's needed like water infrastructure is. Yeah, Blair, that's a fair point. Again, we do need to do some things, but we need to do the infrastructure first, and then if we have a rates cap, we need to say, because of our rates cap, potentially we can do these other things, like do some walkway extension and stage it over a few years, or how we're going to do it. But we've got to keep it at a point where the rates increases are not being like they have the last couple of years, 3 years, and even before that they were still quite high. Yeah, we need to, that's what the whole story is about, isn't it? Getting the infrastructure right before we do the other stuff. It's a fairly common thread that's happening all around the country. Peter Ertel, we seem to be accepting subsidies for projects we can't afford to complete and or maintain. Yeah, that's a valid point, Peter. Thermal dryers, another one. You know, we've got funding for that. We keep taking money, cycleway money. Yeah, those sort of things. It's a false premise to take money just because the government are offering it to do something. They're trying to encourage us into this perpetual cycle of debt and rates increases. Mike Ekdale. That's a long question, Mike. There's some truth to the claim council might have to repay NZTA. You've really got to wonder what he was thinking about. Yeah, you do, Mike. That's why I've asked, and funnily enough, nearly 3 weeks I think since I asked that question. No, it's not. It was Waitara Community Board. I haven't had a reply. I don't think they want to talk to me at the moment. Peter Ertel. I understand there is council land that could be used and there's no need to buy land from landowners. Yeah, I think there is some there, Peter. I think we're using some along Brown Road, Tate Road. I think you're talking about the stuff, the paper road that Councillor Trom's been talking about around the airport. Yeah, we should be looking at ways to do it to keep the costs down. That's the thrust of your question. Everything we do, we should be looking at doing it in a good way that ends up in a good place but keeps the cost inside reasonable. Tony Whale, why does the walkway need to be concrete? Lime chip looks just as good. Yeah, it needs to be a combination. Unfortunately there's some asphalt in there too. And if we have asphalt along that walkway, my concern would be the maintenance costs will be huge. over time if we get that far, especially if we have low mow, no mow areas along the side with the kikuyu growing into the asphalt. It'll just rip it to bits. So yeah, doesn't need to be all concrete, probably not. Can it be cheaper? Absolutely can be cheaper. Nigel Cash, hi Max, there is already a really good footbridge over Wangana River. Why do they need to build a new one? Yeah, I think you're seeing some shift in that happening already, Nigel. That was a decision that came about before I got here, but I think what you're seeing now is it's getting too hard to put it where they want to. There's some engineering issues, there's some property purchase issues, so I think my read of it, if it carries on and gets that far, is it will probably go across that other bridge. But hey, I might be getting ahead of myself here. Simon Chadwick, might be a good idea to see how much the pending land purchase are allocated to be used for reserve max and how much is for the actual walkway. And there's a bit more to that question, but yeah, basically that's actually correct, Simon, and that's what the landowners have been saying all along. Don't come through the middle of our farm, don't create land reserves, it's our farm. Buy what you need. We're offering it to in a place that it can be acceptable for use from our point of view, and that's actually a conversation that will either stop or allow the walkway to progress once it gets to that stage, down at stage 3. Should the walkway be put on hold until after the election, then some transparency over the tender processes and costs? 43 million is bureaucratic syndrome. Is that what BS stands for? From Alan Warner. Yeah, I think it's progressing through the tender process. It's just been gone out again for the second time for stage 1B. I'm not sure that will get through in time before the election. Yeah, the 43 million, yeah, well, I can't argue with that.